Hey everybody, it's Sunday, January 3rd, 2020. We're back with another economic collapse financial crisis update. And yes, I don't use those words lightly. This is truly an economic collapse or financial crisis for a big portion of the U.S. population. I would argue that it's most of the U.S. population is facing very, very difficult times. Now, if you are one of those people who are not feeling the effects of what's happening right now, you may want to stay tuned because this is going to go all the way up to you at some point unless something changes. But today we're going to talk about the evictions, the moratoriums, the true unemployment rate, which the real number is completely manipulated, of course. Most of you know that. But we're going to show you more evidence, current evidence, that the myth of this economic recovery is nothing but just that. It's a myth. It's hopium, as some people like to say. Now first, before we get started, please click that notification bell. Make sure that you are subscribed. There's going to be big things dropping in the month of January and of course throughout the year, but I think especially here in January. And we don't want you to miss any important updates. Headline out of Vox. The relief bill has saved up to 40 million people from eviction for now. And that's the key part we're going to talk about here, for now. The government has extended the eviction moratorium and will give out $25 billion in rent relief. And we're going to focus in here on a constable who is signing an eviction order. And there are still a lot of people falling through the cracks, even though there's not supposed to be anyone evicted. We know that things don't always work out exactly as they're supposed to happen, so there are still people losing the roof over their head. You might have seen more tent cities, the homeless shelters overflowing, more people forced to move in with family or relatives, and friends and so forth. All right, but here's what's going on with the $25 billion in rent relief. Out of this article, the $25 billion will be sent to states to disperse as they see fit. Now, I don't know about you, but when something is handed to a state or to quote-unquote officials, I get the impression that it's not going to go where it needs to go. And that's just not a guess. That's just witnessing what we've seen in this country over the past many decades. And we've seen it time and time again. The ones handling the money, the ones that are supposed to disperse the money, it seems like they end up getting the richest out of everybody. Now, this rescue package also included the stimulus checks. Many people have already gotten their $600 check, $1,200 for a couple. There's also been extended unemployment insurance. And as we said would happen, we said here on this channel that this would get signed at the last minute. We said it's not going to be anything major that's going to affect the long-term outcome of this situation, of this economic collapse. But they will continue to keep people hanging on a thread for as long as possible until people finally wake up or finally realize what's really happening here with the system, with this economy. Continues here, the tens of millions of renters who could face tens of thousands of dollars each and face eviction are, of course, the highest risk group if direct financial assistance can't cover their needs. Right? But it's not just the renters and the tenants, it's also the landlords that are at risk. Continues here in the article, a good chunk of affordable housing in America is owned by individual investors known as mom and pop landlords. All right, and this can be surprising because many people think of rental property owners as big corporations, but 41% of the nation's rental housing units are owned by these mom and pop, small-time investors. All right, what's going to happen to these homeowners, these small investor landlords? Are they going to get foreclosed on if there's no rent coming in? What type of rescue package is here for the landlords? So you see this goes up. Now you're talking about foreclosure prevention programs. All right, so it's going to continue to go up. What's going to happen when landlords can't pay their mortgage and they can't pay their utilities? Now you have to have the utility companies bailed out. What happens if the landlord has a mortgage and now you have to continue to bail out the banks? So we've seen the deregulation of the banks. It's going to continue. It's going to go up and up and up. So ultimately, the end game winners are going to be the too big to fail financial institutions, again, unless something changes. I don't want to put hopium out there. I don't want to give you false hope that something is going to come in and save us from all this. I think we need to continue to prepare because I don't see anything being discussed that's going to change the big picture of this system here, of this economy. Okay, this could evolve into a foreclosure crisis where these small-time investors are the first ones to lose their homes while the big corporations come in and scoop up properties. Listen to this out of this article. If these affordable housing units are lost because landlords are unable to keep up with the cost of maintaining these properties, it's likely to raise rents as supply dwindles, or large private equity firms or investors flip these properties to service a higher income population. It's a dynamic that played out following the 2008 financial crisis, and it could happen again if we're not careful. Recent report here out of News Journal: dogs, cats, and people are together in the housing crisis. The U.S. is currently under a temporary housing eviction moratorium that stops landlords from evicting, and now it says here the number is up to 43 million households if the tenants can't afford to pay the rent. And we're also seeing in some places a surge in animals being given out to shelters, and sadly a lot of these animals are going to have to be put down because they're not going to find a place to go to. When people are on the verge of eviction or getting evicted, it's not as easy to keep your pets with you. We have people going to shelters. Of course, we talk about tent cities. People having to move in with loved ones and family, and a lot of times these are small apartment units, and a pet is just not going to be welcome in some of these places, and it's sad. But this is the reality that we are dealing with. Right, let's go over to Twitter for a little bit of commentary. At haircut_hippie tweeted out the following: disappointed by New York City's extension of the eviction moratorium. My very large son owns Evictor, the Uber for evictions. He feeds his family with his work. Why should the burden be on him? Right, so from Mark's standpoint, his son is benefiting from being able to evict people. Right, he calls it the Uber for evictions, this Evictor. And his son owns that, according to what he's saying here. So this is going to be plotting or pitting people against each other, right? You have one person that's benefiting from getting people out of their homes, evicting people, while the other people, of course, are losing the roof over their head, right? So it's the plotting of the population against one another, right? One person's pain is another person's pleasure, or one person's poorhouse is another person's profit, right? It's simply a system that is designed to tear each other apart, sadly. Robert Reich recently tweeted out the following: what is the point of funding the military when millions of Americans could soon be evicted and millions of children are going hungry? Yes, the food lines. We see the military spending, all the crazy, insane foreign aid packages, millions of dollars going to places like the Kennedy Center and different institutions. Is just off the charts, insane at this point. Robert Wolf tweeted out the following at Professor Wolf, Prof. Wolf: a system that bails out corporations but forces tenants and landlords to destroy one another over evictions is senselessly self-destructive. Excuse me. I know there's a lot of people that don't agree with everything that Wolf says, but it is good to listen to both sides and try to find some common ground, and just be aware of what's happening. Continue to prepare. I speak with landlords every day at my job. I hear the actual pain on the street, what we call Main Street. And there's a lot of investors and people that are doing pretty well for now that are concerned that if something doesn't change, something big, not just a temporary moratorium eviction or a temporary rescue package, if it doesn't change the big picture, the system, then this pain is going to continue. But continue, I hope you're doing well, but continue to prepare, because this thing could get a lot uglier. And so far we're not seeing any light at the end of the tunnel. It's all temporary hopium is what we're seeing so far. Don't forget, please check the notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. It's going to continue to get crazier and crazier. Thanks everybody for watching. Bye for now.